Shahan.
Thanks, Viveka. Of course, Monday here, a new week, but policies of the ANC being discussed quite intensely behind closed doors. The media is not allowed to go into those meetings to allow for robust debate, as the ANC would put it. But there are undertones of a leadership that are emerging through. Yesterday, we got video sent to eNCA about people singing songs, pro-Cyril Ramaphosa and pro-Nkosazana Dlamini Zuma. Let's get some analysis from political analyst Lukhona Mnguni. Thanks for joining us, Lukhona, again. Appreciate it. Of course, you've been here with us over the past couple of days, just checking how things are happening. The ANC said that this shouldn't be about leadership, but it is emerging that way.
Well, Shahan, of course it is about leadership, because even the policy positions that you adopt, some of the delegates will argue on policy positions, keeping in mind the type of leader that is needed to advance those. In fact, one of the things that has been coming out strongly, if you read some of the discussion documents, the ANC takes stock in terms of what has not been implemented. For example, the idea of a state bank, it went nowhere. Now you need to start asking which leader has the moral, political clout to actually effect these changes. But I think the first question should be, how come we have not managed to implement some of the resolutions we took in Mangaung? We know, for example, now we are waiting on the Presidential Fees Commission to actually complete its work, and yet in Mangaung, the organization had said by the end of 2013 it would publish a document that details how we are going to see the attainment of free higher education, at least up to undergraduate level. So what is happening, I think, what has happened over the last few days is that delegates are trying to find each other. But of course, this is the first time that delegates are in one space at a national level since the heightening up of the leadership contest, because in 2015 National General Council it was not so pronounced. So now they are finding space to caucus each other, build alliances. It's only five months towards December now, 6 months, and this is the necessary space for them to create those networks and the ties towards that conference. So you can't escape the question of the leadership battle at all.
Yeah. Now, strategy and tactics is one of the policy discussion documents, and we'll get an update on those discussions later on today. Having read that specific document, it looks at the integrity of leaders in the ANC, both at branch level and at the top. Question is, though, how does the ANC ensure that its hundreds or thousands of members actually meet the criteria?
Well, I mean, they necessarily need to do induction, and the ANC has identified that their induction process, when someone has been recruited as a member, the type of education they are given, political education as it were, to make sure that they understand the ANC, how it works, they understand the prescripts and the policies of the ANC, so that they build this cadre that they want out of each member who's going to serve the ANC, but be an agent of change in society and an agent of spreading the message of the ANC in society. Well, you remember in Mangaung, the ANC said this would be the decade of the cadre, and I would be interested to see how they gauge the work that has been done in the last 5 years in actually advancing some of these things of a decade of the cadre. Because if you look at the diagnostic organizational report by the Secretary General, it comes up this idea that there is a notion that our members are not of the caliber that the ANC requires. Before you even talk about leaders going through the eye of the needle, you just need to say the makeup, the composition of the ANC. It seems as if it is recruiting quantity, as they put it, and not advancing the type of quality that their members need, so that they become role models in society and they become people that can contend with complex social issues. And as you speak about the strategy and tactics, is really to say, how do we refine the strategy, the broad vision of the ANC for society, and then what types of tactics, which they call them short-term actions, that they need to employ to make sure that they attain this strategy. And the ANC is quite clear that it doesn't seem as if they are able to implement the tactics. While they adopt at times a good political program, they are unable to actually make sure that it is implemented, and that's what they need to do, perhaps, with how do they conduct political education going forward.
Now, this policy conference is also being used to reconnect with South Africans, no doubt. You hear the words of people like Gwede Mantashe, Malusi Gigaba, Fikile Mbalula. the buzzwords here, we are discussing a state capture, which is an issue for South Africans. We are discussing corruption, another issue for South Africans. Do you think all of this talk is going to be good enough for South Africans to actually start trusting the ANC again?
Well, look, I mean, the trust deficit that the ANC is suffering from society is on the basis that the ANC talks a lot and it talks well. And the policies of the ANC, I mean, you've got this consensus in society, which I don't know whether it is correct or not. People will say the policies of the ANC are correct. The problem is with implementation. So as the ANC is here to talk about corruption, people are saying it's well and good to talk about corruption, but we can't have the same leaders which we perceive as being corrupt talking about corruption with a straight face. We can't have the same leaders we have seen being factional, advancing divisive politics within the ANC, and these be the leaders that speak with a straight face that they are going to root out the cancer of factionalism and corruption within the ANC. So society is actually looking for something much more meaningful, I think, now from the ANC beyond the talk. The society is saying, can you propose the right type of leaders that espouse the values of integrity, of moral uprightness, and they prioritize the constitution of the country, and they are aligned with the notions of transparency, accountability, and responsiveness to society. And also society is saying the policies that we have had from the ANC, some of them have worked well, but there are certain things that have not been prioritized, such as the quality of services that are given to society. And now if you're looking at it that way, so people are going to say, we want an implementation plan. People no longer want policies. Policies are there, but what are the implementation plans? And you find that there are no ways of thinking about instruments to implement the policies quite critically.
All right, thanks so much for that. Appreciate it. Political Analyst Lukhona Mnguni, of course, giving us insight on this policy conference. It's day 4, Yuveka, and behind those closed doors, delegates will be discussing social transformation and, of course, economic transformation, radical economic transformation. One of the things we hear all over this venue, ministers are punting the word. The president has spoken about it. Some, though, saying it's nothing really radical because these are ANC policies that have already been in place for a while. We'll bring you updates throughout the day right here from Nasrec. It's back to you.
Thanks very much. That's eNCA Shahan Ramkisoon live there from the ANC's National Policy Conference in Nasrec. He will be with us throughout the morning as well.